before Pally starts, I'd just like to provide a brief introduction. So Pally's a professor of electrical engineering at Villanova University. He's been teaching and performing research in solar energy for over 40 years. He works with students on the design and application of technologies for sustainable development. He's worked with UNICEF in Nicaragua, Burundi and Zimbabwe, and has recently worked on renewable energy and connectivity projects in Ecuador. He served previously on the IEEE Site Education Subcommittee and is presently the Vice President of IEEE Smart Village Education Committee. He's served as the Technical Program Chair for GHTC in 2020, and this year he's the co-chair and host of the 2023 IEEE GHT Conference, which takes soon. He was recently awarded the IFEES Duncan Fraser Global Award for Excellence in Engineering Education. And Pally is currently a member of the IEEE HTB Ad Hoc Committee on Site Best Practices. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miriam, for the kind introduction, and thank you, Prakash, for a very interesting and excellent presentation. So I'm going to shift continents to Latin America and talk about some of the work we've done there. So next slide, please. So the first example I'm going to talk about is Guatemala. And I was visiting the Guatemala school that's shown below in the region of, it's the region of Santa Maria Chiquimula. And this school, as you can see at the top right picture, does have power coming to the school. But at the time that I visited, which was in 2019, I believe, there was no internet connectivity, no computers, and as a result of that, poor digital literacy. So when I talked to the person who was the principal of the school, they said, we would love to have a computer lab and be able to teach people about computer literacy and so on. So next slide, please. So the solution that we worked with is based on the Rachel Pi, which is developed by the organization called World Possible and has been adopted in several different countries. And basically, it's a Rachel Pi with a lot of data, educational resources stored on the Rachel Pi. And so we decided that we would like to create our own equivalent of the Rachel Pi using the Raspberry Pi platform. And so we teamed up, next slide, please, with a university in Quetzaltenango called Universidad Rafael Landivar. And this is a comprehensive university based in Quetzaltenango, which is close to Santa Maria Chiquimula. And this is a school, a university that is a Jesuit school that also has a computer science program there. Next slide, please. So this school had worked with the Arduino microcontroller, but had not done anything with Raspberry Pi. So I visited there with a couple of students in May of 2019, and we met with our colleagues from Catholic Relief Services. So they're, of course, an international NGO that was working with this particular school. That's how I got the introduction there. And during this first workshop in May of 2019, we basically showed the students how to program the Raspberry Pi, how you can set it up and work with it, and had them do some simple programming with it. And so this was something that we did in May. Next slide, please. And then in November, we went back again and gave them some more advanced education on the Raspberry Pi, which was really how to configure it as a server and set up a network and so on. And then we also gave some other workshop elements around other advanced topics like machine learning and so on. So we worked with the local professors there, and they applied through CRS for an HEC grant at the time, and got funding to support the establishment of a computer lab at that school we were just looking at. Next slide, please. So I was fortunate to be able to travel there in February of 2020 when they inaugurated the computer lab. And so you can see on the top right, the computer lab, and in the middle, we see Edward Tahom, who is a monitoring and evaluation specialist at CRS. He was the one who was really coordinating this project. And then on the left, you see a picture of the students from Universidad Rafael Landivar actually setting up the computers. So they basically worked on establishing everything. We gave the workshops and prepared them to be able to do that. And they essentially implemented the system on their own. So this was a really nice example of capacity building with a local university that then implemented the project. Well, got the funding and then implemented the project. Of course, the only problem was this was in February of 2020. And of course, March of 2020, everything shut down because of the pandemic, and they were not able to use the computer lab until last year. So, you know, it was a nice project, established the computer lab, but because of the pandemic, they weren't able to really use it until just last year. Okay, next slide, please. So the next case study example I'm going to talk about is the Galapagos Islands project that we've done. Next slide. So the Galapagos Islands are one of the world's top ecological tourist destinations. It's located about 1,000 kilometers west of Ecuador. And there are a few populated islands, but many of the islands are unpopulated. And so, you know, you think of the Galapagos Islands as being this, you know, ecological tourist destination, and you think they would have a lot of resources. It turns out the schools on those islands are actually under-resourced because they're so isolated from mainland Ecuador. And most of the people who travel there are either backpackers or they're coming on cruises. So there isn't really a lot of interaction with the local population. And the Central Ministry of Education in Quito doesn't really give the support that the islands deserve. Next slide, please. So these are some of the collaborating organizations that worked on this project. And we did get some funding from the IEEE Humanitarian Activities Committee at that time. Next slide, please. So our the problem with the internet there is that it's very slow and expensive. And since and at the schools, there was almost no access to the internet. So what we decided to do was to set up a community intranet. And again, we used the Raspberry Pi as the platform for this project. So we made an initial trip down in May of 2018 to do some assessment. And then in January 2019, I had a student group here at Villanova working with students at the university in Ecuador called ESPOL. We worked collaboratively and established the educational resources on these servers, the interface for essentially a website for people to be able to access these resources. And then in January of 2019, we went down to the island of San Cristobal and implemented this project in 5 schools, all 5 schools on the island. Next slide, please. In January of 2020, we'd gotten feedback from the schools and the teachers. And so we made some enhancements to the initial system that we had deployed in January of 2019. And these are some of the things that we put in. We had a domain name server. We had an improved user interface, and then private directories for each of the schools, and management of the application through WordPress, so they could locally manage the website. Next slide, please. The other thing we added was a video conferencing service, and we also connected the schools on Santa Cruz Island. Again, we had some funding from HAC. We also had some funding through the Internet Society through ISOC. Next slide, please. So in our phase 3 enhancements, which went from June 2020 to January of 2021, we connected all the schools on Santa Cruz Island, which is the most populated island. We also added some Wi-Fi access points, 3 on Santa Cruz Island and 2 on San Cristobal Island, because this was again during the time of the pandemic. And so the kids were not going to school, but we wanted them to get access to the educational resources on the servers. And so we added these Wi-Fi access points for them to be able to connect. And then we also upgraded the server from the Raspberry Pis that we had originally started with to more commercial grade servers. Next slide, please. So you can see the commercial grade server. So we have been working with ePhoton Corp, which is a local internet service provider. And so we migrated to the commercial grade servers from the Raspberry Pis. The Raspberry Pis are great as an initial pilot type platform, but really for long-term durability, the commercial grade servers are designed and built for that purpose. Next slide, please. So next slide. You can just go through all the bullets there. Thank you. So we hooked up to the island of Isabela, which is the third island that we connected. And there are 2 schools on that island that we connected to between May and June of last year. The other thing that we did was we did some renewable energy workshops on the islands and connected 2 PV systems, solar electric systems on the islands, and one to a new Infocentro, a sort of cyber cafe on the island of Santa Cruz in a rural area of Santa Cruz. Next slide, please. So this is showing the inter-island link from Santa Cruz to Isabela. Next slide, please. And that was through an RF or microwave link. And then you can see the teachers here giving a thumbs up that they got connectivity to the educational resources on the server. Next slide, please. We also use the, so every year, the Galapagos Conservancy runs 2 teacher training institutes, one in June and one in October. And previously they were sending down, a whole bunch of flash drives with the educational materials on them. By setting up the intranet here, we could post all of the materials on the servers and then have the teachers access the materials through the intranet. So there are 450 teachers on the 4 islands, and they were all able to access these materials through the intranet. So it saved a lot of money in terms of shipping down the and logistical issues, and also gave a chance to the teachers to really use the intranet. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to also highlight, as Miriam had indicated, that we are hosting the IEEE Global Humanitarian Technology Conference here at Villanova, October 12th to 15th, and we would love to have your participation if you're able to. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, as Prakash had mentioned, offering underprivileged populations high-quality education is a complex process that entails tackling a number of issues and creating an inclusive atmosphere, enabling all students to realize their potential. Collaboration between educators, legislators, community leaders, and society at large is necessary. And HTB site does offer funding to projects that do address improvements in education. So you can get funding for these types of projects. Next slide, please. Okay, with that, we'd like to thank you for attending this webinar.